If you see my jewelry trends video, you know that watches are a big trend for women in 2023. I think for a long time, people weren't wearing watches because of their cell phone. With the invention of the Apple Watch, so many people have gone back to wearing watches. I think within the last 5 years, jewelry stacks have become a big thing. The one thing I noticed is that jewelry stacks just start off with like a few bracelets, and as they grow, women are adding watches, and I think that's also contributing to the trend. Whatever it is, I love the trend. I love watches. In this video, I'm going to be talking about all my favorite luxury watches. One caveat, fashion watches are not on the agenda. A fashion watch to me is a watch that's basically licensed by a luxury brand. Like Gucci makes fashion watches, and there are a lot of luxury brands that are similar. Like I love Chanel, I love the Chanel J12 watch, but I do consider it more of a fashion watch more than a high-end luxury watch, even though that Chanel is a luxury brand. In this video, we're going to be focusing on luxury watches made by luxury watch brands. Let's get started. When it comes to luxury watches for women, I think the best known is Cartier. Cartier was founded in Paris in 1847, so it's over 75 years old. When most people think of Cartier, they probably think of jewelry, but they also are very well known for their watches. When I think of Cartier watches, I think of just watches that are an extension of your jewelry. I've been a lover of Cartier timepieces for a very long time. When I was in my 20s, I always wanted the Cartier tank. There's a tank and a Cartier tank française. What I liked best about the Cartier tank was that rectangular dial. When you think of most watches, you do think of like a circular dial, so I thought that was super unique, super cool. Right now, there's two Cartier watches that are really just capturing my attention. Number one is the Ballon Bleu. So the person who got me liking the Ballon Bleu was Rachel Zoe. If you remember, Rachel Zoe had a reality show and she was wearing the Ballon Bleu, and it was just a beautiful watch. She wore it loose, almost like a bracelet style. I was obsessed. I went from liking the tank to liking the Ballon Bleu. The Ballon Bleu is definitely what I would consider your regular circular dial. So what I love about it is it does look like jewelry. I love it in the yellow and the rose gold. Depending on your skin tone, one of them is going to be beautiful on you. I have a friend who has the smaller women's size. It is gorgeous on her. She's a super petite girl. She has it with a small ring of diamonds around the bezel. Drop dead gorgeous. So right now, the Cartier Panther is like the it girl watch. I follow a couple of watch TikTokers, and all everybody talks about is the Cartier Panther. I remember liking the watch when I was young, but it wasn't something that I gravitated towards. The Panther to me looks like more like a bracelet or jewelry than a watch, and I think that's what makes it so special. It comes in all the different golds. It comes in steel if that's too flashy. It comes in diamonds. It comes in two-tone. I also saw that the Panther comes in like a wraparound. Gorgeous. I was watching a show about all the watches on Succession. You know, they were talking about the daughter Shiv on Succession and the watches she wears. And they're like, if you're a billionaire, what watch do you buy? And they were like, the Cartier Panther, and that's what she wears. I've been seeing a lot of people start off with the Cartier Love bracelet, then add the Justin Clou, then add either a Cartier Panther, a Cartier Ballon Bleu, or even a tank. All I can say is the Cartier jewelry is a gateway drug to the Cartier watches. The one thing I do like about the Cartier watches is that they go well with so many different jewelry stacks. I have a Pinterest board of just watch stacks, and I think the majority of my watch stacks either have Cartier jewelry or have Cartier watches, and they just mix and match with so many things. Another thing I like about the Cartier watches is they're very feminine. They do come in larger sizes for men. I like the look on men, but I prefer it on women. Quick side note when it comes to sizing. Watch sizing is a very, very personal thing. Women's watches are more so in the 22, 25, 27 millimeter range. I prefer a 36 millimeter watch. All my watches are 36 millimeters. I may go down to a 33. I like a watch that's a little bit more substantial. If you're a woman who has a very small wrist, definitely go for the women's watch. If you care about resale value, you're gonna have to come up at least to 31, 33 millimeter. 36 is a mid-size watch, so I think most men can wear it. That opens you up basically to watches that you can sell to men and women. The good thing about watches is you can go to a department store and just try on different sizes to get a good feeling of what you like. When it comes to Cartier watches, I don't think you can go wrong because Cartier has been making watches for a very, very long time. If you are interested in a Cartier watch, try to get it resale. I've seen them everywhere, whether it be authorized dealers, the Cartier boutique, the Real. The retail price of most of these Cartier watches is very, very expensive. If you do want these luxury watches and you're willing to maybe get a watch that maybe has a ding, a scratch, or even just is not fresh out the box, then I would say get your Cartier watch from a reseller. But that's just me. So most Cartier watches use quartz movement, meaning they're powered by a battery. But there are a few models of the Ballon Bleu and the tank watch that are automatic. Automatic means that it's powered by a mainspring that's wound automatically through the motion of the wearer's wrist. If you wear your automatic watch every day, it's going to get enough motion that it's going to be wound. If you leave it for a week, you're going to find that your watch is essentially dead and needs to be wound up in order to get it back moving. There is some debate on whether a quartz or automatic time is more precise. Most people say that quartz movements are are more precise because they don't die on you like this. If you like luxury watches, you're gonna have to contend with mechanical and automatic watches that just need to be moved. So just keep that in mind. Next up is the Rolex. For most people, Rolex is the first luxury watch brand they know by name. But most people think of Rolex, they think of a Swiss time company, and the Rolexes are made in Switzerland. But Rolex was actually founded in London in 1905, but then it moved to Switzerland where all the great watchmakers are located. Up until about 5 years ago, Rolex was the most popular watch brand, but it has now been overtaken by Apple. Before that time, there were more Rolexes in the world than there were any other watches. I'm interested to see how that plays out in 10 years because Apple makes their products basically with planned obsolescence. Rolexes are made to last. I had a friend who had a family member pass away earlier this year, and she inherited their Rolex. All she really has to do now is get this Rolex service, maybe take a few links out. She can wear it for the rest of her life, and when she dies, she can pass it on to one of her children. Rolex watches started off as dive watches, and they were meant to be water resistant. Based on what I'm reading, some models are capable of functioning at depths of 1,220 meters or essentially 4,000 feet. I know if I had an 18 karat gold Rolex, I probably wouldn't go diving in it, but they say you can do that with some models. So if you look at old like print ads from Rolex, it was always a very nautical theme. The first modern Rolex model that came out was the Submariner, and of course that is a dive watch. It's a very classic design. It's a large watch. It's definitely what I would consider a men's watch. The Submariner especially, but a lot of these watches in this video, you're gonna look at and be like, oh, I've seen another brand with that watch. If you've seen this style on another watch, that watch is a dupe of these luxury watches because the Submariner was made in 1953. So Rolex is known for a lot of different models. My favorite model is the Datejust. It just has a very simple dial with a date bubble. There's also the date model, and that essentially has the date bubble at the 3 o'clock, but it then has the day of the week at the top, kind of in the 12 o'clock area. I know my first luxury watch purchase is going to be a Datejust. I will get an 18 karat gold Datejust with the president bracelet, subtle diamonds at all the hour markers, 36 millimeter. There also is the practical side of me that's like, maybe I can just get a two-tone Datejust that with like the Jubilee bezel that's, you know, with no diamonds that I can wear for every day. But I still want my 18 karat gold Datejust with the president bracelet. It's gotta happen. I don't know if I'm gonna get it first or second. I actually want it first, but that's me. For the longest time I said I was never gonna buy a day date. But then recently I was on TikTok and I saw somebody with a day date. It has basically a solid black dial. It's made out of onyx. Girl. It has no hour markings. It's just the onyx bezel with the date and the day of the week. This watch, I looked it up, in bad condition, it's like $30,000 pre-owned, maybe from the 90s or the 2000s. In perfect condition, it's probably $50,000. I know. When I become a super famous influencer, I will get that watch and make a video and talk about it, but that's not gonna be my first watch. Most of the models of the Rolex are very masculine. I like the Daytona. If you're a woman and you love an oversized watch, I think those models are to die for. I see a lot of women wearing the Submariners, the Daytonas, the GMT Masters. They look gorgeous. If you have a very small wrist, they may not work for you. If you're like me, you can wear a 36 and sometimes even a 40. Those watches are gorgeous. On a feminine woman, it gives a nice yin and yang. Rolexes are mechanical watches that use automatic movements. All you need to know is you either need to wear your watch, your Rolex, or you need to wind it up if it does, or you need to get those little machines that will simulate movement for you. Either way. So the one thing I do love about Rolex is that the models are largely unchanged over the years. If you see a model that you like in the store right now, you could definitely find a pre-owned model that from maybe the 1980s that is just as gorgeous but for a lower price point. There may be some dings, some scratches, some whatever. It's still a Rolex. Items that are made in the 1980s, 1990s are a slightly better quality than anything right now. So unless you want a brand new Rolex, I would definitely recommend trying to find one pre-owned. So when it comes to fine Swiss time making, the three names that every woman should know are Audemars Piguet, Patek Philippe, and Vacheron Constantin. So the thing about Vacheron Constantin is it's definitely a if you know type of brand. It's a name you should know, but it's not trending right now. It's like almost like Van Cleef and Arpels like 5-10 years ago. People who were into luxury jewelry knew about it, but nobody was really buying it except for the people who knew. I wanted to bring it up because maybe you got a sugar daddy that wants to buy you a high-end watch that nobody else has, and that is the watch you buy. But for everybody else, it's gonna be slightly easier to get an AP or Patek Philippe. I'm just saying. So first up, let's talk about Audemars Piguet, affectionately known to a lot of people as AP. I'm really into hip hop music, and I think the first time I ever heard anybody mention the name Audemars Piguet was probably in a Jay-Z song. So AP is known for its innovative use of materials, such as like carbon fiber and ceramic, things that you don't usually see in luxury watches. So AP makes a ton of watch models that run the gamut from dress watches to sports watches, but the watch that AP is known for is the Royal Oak. The Royal Oak was first introduced in 1972, and it is credited with popularizing the luxury sports watch. So if you think of the progression of modern day watches. So back in, let's say, the 1920s, regular people were not wearing watches. Most rich people were wearing pocket watches. Pocket watches then gave way to what we call wristwatches. And wristwatches had a lot of different uses, but often for rich people, they were wearing what you would consider a dress watch. And dress watches are made for like black tie events or wearing to work at business. Sports watches are made for like business casual uses and anything else. Most luxury non-dress watches back in the day had a utility, like the Rolex Submariner were used for diver watches. It really wasn't until the Royal Oak became popular and people just thought about wearing steel watches for fun, really. A Royal Oak is a model, but the Royal Oak has a lot of different, what they're called, references. Essentially just a lot of different configurations of the Royal Oak. Offhand, I can think of the ultra thin, which is my favorite. They also have the skeleton, which shows you the inner workings of the watch. The ultra thin that I'm obsessed with is of course 18 karat gold. It definitely has a very jewelry-like bracelet, which I love. The one thing about the Royal Oak that makes it stand out is instead of having like a circular bezel, it has one that's more, I think it's octangular. I believe it's in reference to like a submarine window. It's a beautiful watch. This Royal Oak is stunning. It's not my number one watch. It's definitely a watch that I'm gonna buy as my collection grows because I feel like I do want the Rolex. I think I would wear the Rolex every day. It has a slightly different vibe to the Rolex, a little bit more modern is the only way I can describe it. Two of my favorite influencers, Style Hard and Tamara, have Royal Oaks. I believe Tamara has either a steel or a white gold, and Style Hard has a rose gold. I'm obsessed with both of them. Yeah, if I had to get a steel watch, it'd be an ultra thin Royal Oak. But that's just me. APs are much harder to get than, let's say, a Rolex. Most of the popular Royal Oaks are very similar to Hermes Birkin bags. If you can get them for retail at the boutique, you're golden. If you have to buy a popular model for resale, you may have to pay double or even triple what retail is, and nobody wants to do that. When I first saw the Royal Oak, I didn't think this was going to be a good watch for women to create watch stacks with, but I've been seeing a lot of really, really good looking watch stacks with this watch. The Royal Oak has a slightly more masculine flair, so I think it looks really good with things that aren't super girly, like the Cartier Just Include looks really good with it. I feel like tennis bracelets look good with almost anything, so a traditional tennis bracelet with maybe a Royal Oak that has diamonds on it, gorgeous. I don't think you can go wrong. It's a very lovely watch. I like the 37 millimeter, but I have seen a lot of women wearing the smaller one. It's all about your personal preference. But let me know what you think about the AP and the Royal Oak specifically. So next up is the Patek Philippe. I do think Patek Philippe is a brand that's gaining popularity with women. As I mentioned, Patek Philippe watches are made in Switzerland. A lot of these luxury watches have spawned multiple dupes. One of the most famous Patek Philippe watches is the Calatrava. When I first saw this watch, I was like, oh, that looks like every other dress watch that I've ever seen. But then I saw that this model was made in 1932. I feel like a lot of luxury dress watches are inspired by the Calatrava. It's basically a classic dress watch that's known for its understated elegance. So other popular Patek Philippe models are, of course, the Nautilus. That is the brand that I see most women making watch stacks out of, followed up by the Aquanaut and also the Grand Complications. So everybody's been talking about quiet luxury and old money versus new money. Of all the watches that I've discussed, I do believe that Patek Philippe is like the epitome of quiet luxury, old money. Even though Rolex watches have been around for a very long time, I do think the popularity of Rolex watches have made them become new money. Either way, as I mentioned, I want an 18 karat gold 36 millimeter Datejust. It's definitely a flashy watch. People are gonna be like, oh, that's a fancy watch. Is that a Rolex? Because it looks like a Rolex. Most Patek Philippe's just look like a nice watch. Nobody's gonna clock it as something super expensive. It's definitely, if you know, you know. Even the very popular Nautilus is not a watch that people are gonna look at and be like, oh yeah, that's an expensive watch. Royal Oak in steel definitely looks a little bit more old money versus a Royal Oak in like 18 karat gold. An 18 karat gold watch is just gonna scream new money. It is what it is. I do see women wearing and stacking the Nautilus. Most women who are stacking gold or silver jewelry pieces. Let me know what you think of the Patek Philippe models I mentioned. So that was my video about luxury watches for women. Let me know if you want a deeper dive into any of these watch brands or if you'd like tips on how to buy luxury watches. Earlier in this video, I mentioned my jewelry trends video. If you haven't seen it, I'm gonna link it here. All right, see you next time. Bye.